Welcome to How to Play Work of Heart. In this collection of videos, I'm going to walk you through, step by step, how to play our tabletop dating sim.
Part 1. Goal and game modes.
The goal of the game is to romance your love interest of choice by earning the most affection points. That's these little heart icons here.
First thing we do is pick a game mode. There's Harem, Romantic Rival, and Flying Solo. Harem is our recommended game mode and is for 2 to 4 players. The group as a whole chooses one love interest, and everyone competes for their heart. The player with the most affection points at the end of the game wins.
This mode will only have one winner.
Romantic Rival is a 1v1 mode for 4 players. 2 players form a group and select one love interest to romance, and the other 2 players do the same, but they choose a different love interest. Each group is made up of 2 rivals competing to romance the same love interest.
This game mode will have 2 winners, and it will be whatever 2 players end the game with more affection than their rival.
Last is Flying Solo. This is for 2 to 4 players and can end with everyone winning. Every player picks a different love interest to romance. To successfully win their heart, you just have to end the game with at least 10 affection points.
And those are the 3 ways to play Work of Heart. Once you pick a game mode, you're ready to set up.
Part 2. Setup. Start by handing everyone their player board and stat trackers. Place the stat trackers on your player board to their corresponding color. Then give each player tiles, and a pawn matching the color of their player board. Put the 2 time trackers on the day and turn tracks. Then move all player pawns to the quad space.
Next, we get our decks of cards ready for the game.
Shuffle and place the action and event decks face down. Then make sure each player draws 2 cards into their hand from the action deck. Have each player pick one of the 12 bonus cards. Then take all the selects, shuffle them together, and make this the bonus deck. The remaining bonus cards that no one picked will not be used in this game.
Now you pick an appropriate amount of love interests for the game, depending on the game mode.
Once you have, hand out the love interest cards to any players attempting to romance that love interest. Look at their scheduled location for Monday and place their corresponding character token on that location.
And now you're ready. Everything is set up and play can begin with player 1.
Part 3. Love interest cards.
These cards hold vital information about the game's love interests, so it's important to know how to read them.
On the card, you'll find the character's difficulty, preferred traits, schedule, and quirk. Next to the character in their name will be one of 3 faces, a green, yellow, or red one. Each denotes the mechanical difficulty of each character you're playing with. On the top right are your love interest's 3 favorite traits. Remember these because they'll be important. Below that is their schedule, each day showing what building they'll be in and their daily affection threshold. Finally, at the bottom is the character's quirk, a unique effect that changes the rules for anyone pursuing them romantically. Sometimes they're useful and sometimes not. Remember, a love interest quirk doesn't necessarily affect every player, just the ones trying to romance them.
And that's everything you need to know to understand the love interest cards.
Part 4. Moving in tiles. Moving is pretty simple. Roll the dice and move that many spaces. You can travel in any direction, but you can't move on a space you already traveled through that same turn. Once you've picked a space to land on, mark it with a walkway tile of your player color. Then move your pawn onto that space. You've now activated that space's effect, so you collect the corresponding reward. However, now that that space is covered, nobody else, including you, can activate that space again.
For the rest of the game, you could still land on it, it just won't do anything.
And one more thing. 2 players cannot occupy the same space at the same time. If you would end your turn on a space another player is currently on, simply jump that player and end your turn on the next immediate space.
Now you may have noticed these big circles around the board.
These are buildings. Some of them are where your crush will be day to day, and others will yield rewards. Unlike spaces, you don't have to land on buildings to stop at them. If you move through a building, you can end your turn on it. Buildings also never get covered by walkway tiles, and any amount of players can be in the same building at the same time.
As I mentioned, landing on spaces will earn you rewards, such as cards to help you throughout the game or an increase to one of your traits. But what exactly are those? Let's talk about what traits are in the next section.
Part 5. Traits.
Traits are key to winning your crush's heart. They're the upgradable qualities that make you, you.
There are 7 traits in total. Charm, brawn, kindness, smarts, tenacity, humor, and mojo. Each of your traits can be leveled up to a maximum of 4. Here's a few ways to make that happen. The first is to land on any of the corresponding trait spaces. Land on a space and increase the trait by 1. But remember, each space is only a one-time use.
You can also upgrade your traits with buildings.
Anytime you stop in the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or purple building, you upgrade the corresponding trait by 1. And remember, you don't have to land directly on the building to end your turn there. there. You can choose to end your turn as soon as you reach the building, even if your turn has just started and you're already in the building. They're reusable, unlike spaces, so use them to upgrade your trait as much as you like.
But how does upgrading your traits help you win? Let's get into that in the next part.
Part 6. Perks.
Every trait has an ability that helps you during the game.
You can activate each ability or perk once every in-game day, after upgrading your trait to at least level 2. You'll know you're ready to use your perk once the tracker is over the perk text. Charms perk lets you redo your movement roll once a day. Brawn lets you steal another player's spot if you land directly on them, and send that player back to the quad. Kindness lets you use a space that's already been used and has a walkway tile over it, so you can land on it and still get the reward underneath. Just don't peek under the tile before committing to using this perk. That's cheating. Smarts lets you redraw an event card, in case you get one you just don't like. Tenacity lets you immediately move one space for free if someone else rolls a 6 while they're moving, maybe letting you steal an extra bonus. Finally, Humor lets you draw an extra action card when drawing.
You can activate these perks at any appropriate time.
To do so, simply flip the corresponding trait tracker over. This will help you remember if you used a perk for today. Just don't forget to flip the trackers back at the end of the day.
Now in the next part, we're going to go over what happens if you fully upgrade one of your traits.
Part 7. Affection.
In order to win a game of Work of Heart, you need to be the player with the most affection points.
The easiest way to earn affection is to just fully level up a trait. If I max out my kindness, for example, I would earn 1 affection point, shown by placing my trait tracker over this symbol here.
There is another way to earn affection points, but it's a little complicated, so just stay with me.
Once a day, you may visit the building your crush is in and attempt a romance roll. This involves rolling 2 dice to see if you will earn affection from your love interest. First, you take this dice here and roll it. Each face on this dice corresponds to a level you currently have in your crush's preferred traits. For example, say I roll a 1. I would then look to my love interest's card, look at their preferred traits, and find their number 1 trait. In this case, that's kindness. Then I'd look to see what level I currently have for kindness. Right now I have a 2, so my first roll is a 2. Then I would just roll the regular dice and add whatever number that lands on to my previous roll. And that's a 3, so my total is 5.
Here's one more example just to be safe.
Say I roll this, a 1-2. I would look and see that my love interest's number 1 and number 2 traits are kindness and charm. So I would see what level I am currently at in kindness and charm, that being 2 and 1. So my first roll total is 3. Then I roll the regular dice and add that number to my previous roll, and arrive at my total, 6. And if that total number matches or exceeds this number, the number my love interest has for today, I have made a successful affection roll, and in turn, I get 2 affection points, shown by moving this pink tracker up 1 space.
Now all the mechanics should be coming together for you. Hopefully you can now see why upgrading your traits, especially your crush's favorite traits, is so important.
Keep in mind you can only attempt an affection roll once every day, but there's usually no reason to not attempt an affection roll. A game day only lasts 5 turns, so if by the end of the 5th turn you haven't attempted an affection roll, you've basically forgone a chance at 2 affection points.
So watch the clock and try to make it to your crush before the end of the day.
Part 8. Mojo.
There are 7 traits in the game, but one of them works very differently than the rest. That trait is mojo.
Let's talk about how this one differs. There is no mojo building, which means the only way to upgrade this trait is with the event cards or a mojo space. There's only one character with mojo as a preferred trait, so unless you play with them, that trait's level will not be used in affection rolls. You don't get any affection points for maxing out this trait. Instead, you get a second perk.
To that point, this means by level 4, you have 2 different mojo perks to use.
The first perk lets you reroll your trait die during your affection roll. The second lets you reroll your number die during your affection roll.
This means with Max Mojo, you can get an entire second chance to romance your love interest every day.
You can use both perks once a day and in any order you want.
Mojo is essential for earning affection from the more difficult love interests in the game.
Part 9. Action cards.
What's a board game without cards to play?
Action cards can be used to help you throughout the game or even hinder the competition. Make sure every player starts each day with at least 2 action cards in their hand. If anyone doesn't have 2 action cards at the beginning of a new day, they draw from the deck until they do.
This happens every in-game day, including the first day. But be advised, a player can hold no more than 5 cards in their hand at a time.
There are 3 types of action cards: ones to be played on your turn, ones to be played on someone else's turn, and ones that can be played on anyone's turn.
Action cards have several different effects.
Here's a few examples. Take a Bus can be played on your turn and takes you directly to any building. Closed can be played on another player's turn and prevents that player from leveling up once they've entered a trait building. And Yoink can be played anytime someone uses an action card. This steals that card they would have played and adds it to your hand.
Once you've used an action card, move it to the discard pile. If the action deck runs out, shuffle the discard pile and make this your newly replenished deck.
The best way to get more action cards is by landing on these action spaces. Every time you end your turn here, you draw one action card.
Action cards can drastically change the game, so make use of them. Otherwise, your opponents will.
Part 10. Events. Occasionally, a player may land on an event space. These allow the player to draw an event card.
Events represent the day-to-day interactions you might have running into characters around the campus.
These events will test the level of some of your traits. This card here will test your charm. You can see the trait being tested, followed by an interaction you're having with the character.
This part here is really just flavor text. You can skip it if you like.
Then you are given 3 ways to respond to this event. Each response results in a reward, but you can only choose one response that you qualify for. This response here requires you to be at least level 2 in charm, while this one requires level 4. The first one though always requires a minimum of 0. Some events even test 2 of your traits, like this one here testing your smarts and charm. I have a 2 in charm and a 3 in smarts. 5 altogether. So I can choose either the first or second response, but not the last.
There are also group events.
When a group event is drawn, every player benefits. These cards allow each player to increase one of 3 different traits. Once you've drawn an event card, resolve the effect immediately, then discard it.
Event cards are always helpful and they have many possible effects, so don't skip them.
Part 11. Time.
Let's talk about how time progresses in Work of Heart.
The game starts with the day set to Monday, and the round set to 1. Once each player has taken a turn and play cycles back to player 1, the round tracker is moved down 1 space. Once each player has gone 5 times, the round is set back to 1, and the day moves to the next.
Once each day ends and a new one begins, all players are reset.
All players move back to the center quad, all tiles are left where they are, any perks used are flipped, any players with less than 2 action cards draw until they have 2, and all love interests are moved to the building indicated on their schedule. Each new day has them located in a new building. After the 5th day, the game ends, and you begin to tally up affection points.
And speaking of ending the game, we have one more section left, so stick around.
Part 12. Ending the game.
Now let's talk about how our journey comes to an end.
After the 5th turn on Friday, no more turns are taken. Everyone stays where they are and we start tallying up points. For every successful interaction with your crush, you get 2 affection points. For every trait maxed out, other than mojo, you get 1 affection point. Finally, 2 bonus cards are drawn and revealed from the deck you made at the beginning of the game. Each card awards a certain player with 2 extra affection points. Each card has different requirements. This one awards points to the player with the highest total traits, while this one rewards the player who ended the game closest to the quad.
If more than one player meets the criteria to receive bonus affection, award all those who qualify.
After tallying up successful interactions, maxed out traits, and bonus affection, whoever has the most affection points is the winner. In the case of a tie, just keep giving out bonus cards until a winner is finally decided, or decide to enter a polyamorous relationship.
For win conditions on specific game modes, please refer back to section 1 of this series. And that's everything you need to know about how to play Work of Heart. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you have fun.